So today, we are going to talk about the brand new Disney Star Wars show, Ahsoka. We're going to talk about the first 2 episodes. Basically, these 2 episodes were released together, so therefore we're going to discuss them in their full, not entirety, but in their essence in one episode.
So, yes,
I
they
call it Disney Star Wars because I'm sorry, but Disney has dropped the ball with this IP. It's not what it was. It's not what it should be. I'm not saying I hate the show. It's so odd the direction they've been going with everything, and they've I mean, quite frankly, they've woman washed this whole show. I understand the show's called Ahsoka, but like, where's everybody else? It's just like, okay, we got Ahsoka, we've got Hera, we've got Sabine. The only male character that's like here that's a good guy is a robot played by none other than Doctor Who.
David Tennant.
Really? I didn't know that.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
dude, totally. Yeah, he's Hu Yang or whatever they call him here. But I just feel like, okay, maybe I'm just like stuck on this whole like maybe Barbie has tainted my view on everything right now. But the reality is, like, you look at it and you're like, oh, there's Rosario Dawson, there's Natasha Louis, whatever, Bortizo, Mary Elizabeth Winstead, and it's like they're the mains, you know. And when you watch the show Rebels that had these characters in it, it was well balanced. It had everybody kind of there. You had some aliens, you got some droids, you got some females, you got some males.
So here's where I'm going to disagree with you.
Okay.
If the show was called Rebels and they did that, I would be 100%. The show is called Ahsoka.
Yes.
So it is a TV show about the heroine, which I'm perfectly okay with.
Accurate.
I'm okay with her having a female Padawan. I'm fine with that. I'm totally okay with... I actually... The only thing that Disney's doing wrong, I think, is they made this a 6-episode show. They should have just made it 8.
8.
They should have made it 7 and just made this whole thing, instead of doing 2 episodes, just release 1 2-hour episode. And that would have been better.
Yeah.
Because what's the point of releasing 2 episodes at the same time? Just
They've done it with everything else. They're just kind of sticking
so they can have a cliffhanger that's immediately not a cliffhanger.
Exactly.
Which made no sense because, I'm sorry, I'm going to say this. She got stabbed the same way that Qui-Gon did.
No, she did not.
And she's fine.
No, she did not. Qui-Gon got stabbed right through the middle of his chest and into his heart. She got stabbed on the side. So no, she did not. It went through the side of her stomach. So we've seen that 100,000 times, and people always survive that. And on top of that, it's a lightsaber, so it cauterizes the wound immediately.
Oh, okay. So it doesn't cauterize on anybody else who's been stabbed with a lightsaber. I'm just saying, maybe not just Qui-Gon alone, but
who's been stabbed with a lightsaber and then bled out?
I've seen limbs go missing.
You know what?
But there's no blood.
Let's go back to my question I've always had. Episode 4, A New Hope, or we'll just say original Star Wars. Obi-Wan, old Ben, cuts off that dude's arm, and there's blood. There's clearly blood.
It's the first time, and then they got smart, and they went, oh, that's right, it's a lightsaber, it's hot heat, it's going to cauterize the wound. From that point on, they never did it again.
So you admit it makes no sense, but it's been in there. And I'm surprised that George Lucas didn't, like, change it when he put out the Blu-ray and remove the blood, because it was not necessary, and just make it a nice, clean cut that's been cauterized.
Correct. It doesn't fit, but it's the only time it happens. Where was the Bacta tank, though, that she needed to go in to heal up? That's my only... Because she healed up pretty quick.
Well, he was old.
Oh, we just didn't see that.
He was old. He was old.
Who was old?
Well, you're talking about Boba Fett, and he went to the Bacta tank to heal. It's because he was old. Right. I mean, if we listen to Lee, it's because he was old.
What?
Yes.
Boba Fett.
Boba Fett.
Yes.
Boba Fett.
Boba Fett.
Where?
Can we talk about this episode without bringing up the worst pile of trash that we've ever talked about?
What?
Boba Fett.
Barbie or the source?
Boba Fett.
I make
Boba
no
Fett.
promises.
Boba Fett.
Boba Fett.
That movie was... I do like that fact that you brought up the whole Thrawn trilogy that's coming into that. I
Okay,
think that's really, really cool.
Here's the thing: the Thrawn trilogy. The Thrawn trilogy is not coming into this. So the Thrawn trilogy is no longer considered canon, at least not the original Thrawn trilogy that came out in the early 90s.
Let me rephrase that. Thrawn is the big bad
himself. So Thrawn himself was one of the big bads in Rebels. That's why they're bringing in here. So I'm going to give you guys a little heads up, and I'm watching this, and right off the bat in the first episode, and bleeding on even further, all of this is heavy, just Rebels based. Ezra, a character you guys have never heard about, is the main character in Rebels. It's all about Ezra. All of it.
Okay.
Sabine, also much about her. She's like a secondary character, if not the second. Hera, huge character in Rebels. Like, these are main characters. Zeb, that purple dude that was introduced to us at that episode of Mandalorian, who came by the bar, he's like, oh, sounds like a death sentence, like whatever. Like, he's a main character in it. And then we're getting talks here in this episode about the Night Sisters. Morgan Elsbeth was a Night Sister. Yes, big part of Rebels. And they're on Dathomir. Dathomir is where Darth Maul came from. All those dudes.
Yeah.
And you got this other character that was introduced in there. Forgive me if I don't remember if it's Clone Wars or Rebels at this point, but there was a character, Savage, that was introduced that was basically Darth Maul's brother, and he became the apprentice of the Emperor at one point, and it was really interesting.
Do you think they'll bring him back into live action through this TV show?
I don't see how they could, because they already killed him off in Rebels. So no.
Oh, they did.
Yes.
Again.
Rebels was the one. No, like actually killed off. Rebels was the series where Obi-Wan actually killed him in the desert by the fire, and it was really like poetically done. Like he stabbed him, and then he was like holding him in his arms, and he was like, whatever. Like it was a big deal. It was actually a really cool scene. I thought you checked that out, didn't you, Will?
What, Rebels?
Yeah, just that scene, the Darth Maul actual death. Well,
No.
anyway,
when he's with his spider legs.
No. He had spider legs, and then he got the metal legs later on.
Oh, he does.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. You get the regular legs that we saw in Solo, which we'll never see again.
No, in Solo, he had the spider legs.
No, he had just regular metal legs. They weren't spider legs anymore. When he stood up, he just had two legs. It wasn't spider.
No, I'm pretty sure in Solo he had the spider legs.
Rewatch it. I checked. Trust me, because I knew about the spider legs. It was actually really interesting when they introduced him with the spider legs, because he lost his mind. He was completely insane, like throwing his head up against the wall, like saying ridiculous things and not making any sense. And over time, they had to bring his mind back, but he was just like so nuts. And then he focused all of his anger and energy towards going after Kenobi, because he blamed him for everything.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, this whole show is just another season of Rebels, but mostly focusing on Ahsoka, because she's the titular character here. But the fact that you guys haven't seen Rebels, you don't understand. I mean, I think they brought up the word Purgle. Purgle are the space whales that can travel through light speed.
We saw that in Mandalorian.
We talked about that really quickly. We saw some weird things. I told you guys it's the Purgle. So it was all leading up to this coming back. The whole episode that we saw Ahsoka in that episode, was it season 2 of Mandalorian?
Yeah.
Not 3. When we saw her and we saw Morgan Elsbeth, the whole thing, we got into the whole where's Thrawn. Like, all of it traveled along with that, and we're seeing these things tie in because it was all leading up to this show. What they're going to do with Thrawn, I'm not really sure, but the really cool thing is, just before this started, I brought my kids to the library and got them library cards, and I'm really pumped about it because now they can, like, my daughter reads books, like, she'll read a book in less than a day, just like, give me another book, give me another book, give me another book. She's 7, she'll be 8 in the fall, loves books. Now, we don't have to keep buying her books, we can just bring her to the library. Here, take it onto the book, we're fine. But if you have a library card membership, or library membership, you can access multiple libraries in the general area and borrow books from there. You also have access to a ton of audiobooks. So now I'm going into another Star Wars trilogy via audiobook that I'm getting for free. It's the Aftermath trilogy, which comes out, it takes place after Return of the Jedi and before all this. So it's kind of all that picking the pieces up when they're starting to build the New Republic. And I'm like, so far it's actually really, really cool. I'm following Wedge. Wedge just got captured by a ship. He's like, what's the Empire doing out here? I thought they were all gone. And that's what we're kind of seeing here too, is like there's still remnants of the Empire. Thrawn was known huge, in his books, again, no longer canon, as a remnant of the Empire still fighting for the Empire. So I know there's a lot of information I'm giving you guys, but I want you guys to have a backstory and understand what's happening here, because all of this is tied in heavily to what Filoni has laid out.
Cool.
Because it's all the Filoni stuff is canon, but they're still taking little tidbits from the stuff no longer considered canon because it was a cool story and he agrees with it too.
Right.
So
the show is full of Filoni.
Yep. Total Filoni.
Will you want me to go? Or
yes, I would like you to go.
All right, see you later, Chuck.
I want to go last. I want to be last.
Bye, guys. Go. All right. So I thoroughly enjoyed these 2 episodes.
Wow. Okay.
I really, really liked them. I thought that the storyline so far was decent. There's a few parts that I could not handle. When you see there's a couple R2 units. One's an R3. What is it? R3D3 or something like that. They look totally plastic and fake. The red, what's his name?
Chopper.
Yeah,
I love Chopper.
With the arms, he's annoying.
He is annoying. Also, main character in Rebels.
He needs to go away.
He's not going away. He's not going away.
He said we did it.
He said everything.
I know he shouldn't.
And
did you move my stuff?
I got a bad feeling about this.
He actually says, "Did you move my stuff?"
Yes, he did.
Yeah. Why? And
then he goes, "Oh, here it is."
Right. It's dumb.
I love it.
There are some parts of this show where the CG was just off. Like the opening part when you're seeing the ship from above and it looks totally CG. From behind it was, you could see the lights in the back. You could see it was fine. Trying to do the whole Star Wars thing and following the saga with the words going up, but doing it in red versus yellow, I thought was interesting. Yeah. Outside of that, so far this is light years ahead of Mando season 3.
Remind me, are you sure there was a crawl, or was it just words?
It was a crawl of 3 paragraphs.
Was it a crawl?
It was a crawl,
Yes.
3 paragraphs. It went straight up, and the very last one had the 3 dots because it leads you into what's going to happen now.
Okay.
But the really only part I have a hard time with is this main villain that we have right now, the Sith Lord, not the girl.
He's not a Sith Lord. We don't really know what he is.
Okay, he's Force sensitive. He's with the dark side.
Okay.
As of right now,
first of all,
this is
rest
Cope.
in peace, Ray Stevenson, because he kills it here.
This is Cope.
He died like a few months ago.
Oh, that's horrible.
Oh, that's
Ray
sad.
Stevenson. You didn't hear about that?
No.
Yeah, dude. I mean, a few months ago, maybe a year ago. I mean, sometime within the past year, he passed away.
Oh, wow.
And
That's
R.I.P.
horrible.
Bob Barker.
Hence why this movie that's dedicated to Ray.
Yes.
That's why. Okay.
Yeah. But as far as Bob Barker goes, it's amazing he got that close to 100 without going over. It's not a too soon joke. It just makes sense that Bob Barker was close, but didn't go over. So therefore, he's still good.
Right.
But
versus go to a penny and $1, 100 pennies. He's the only part that I'm iffy about because it's like he's trying to be bad, but he doesn't seem to be.
Because there's conflict there. So he's clearly a Force-sensitive character that's more of a mercenary. And I think that's what makes this character interesting, because he's not like an Inquisitor. He's not a Sith, and he's not a Jedi. I'm thinking, and I'm hoping, that this is the Grey Walkers that was always kind of like hinted about in certain Legends books. It's the ones that they kind of walk the line.
Well, his apprentice is really... You can tell that she's bad.
She's bad, but she's also questioning things too. There were a couple of times in this episode where they're both kind of hesitant to just go forward with the mission.
She's only questioning because he might question something. But I'm gonna to quote Jackie Chan in Karate Kid. No such thing as bad student, only bad teacher. That was also Mr. Miyagi in the original Karate Kid as well too. So she's only, but in this case, she is actually coming across. Like she tried to kill. What's her name? Sabine. Is it Sabine?
Because she was told to. Yes,
she was right. She was never told to kill him.
She was told to go after her.
To go after her.
Uh-huh. And what do you do if somebody pulls a lightsaber on you? She
pulled the lightsaber first. And then Sabine took out her lightsaber.
What was she going to do?
She was going to get the map.
Okay.
Because he knew that Ahsoka was going there to help, because they know the history behind that. Outside of that, I thought the effects were great. I thought the storyline is good so far. I actually left like, ooh, I want to know what happens next. I didn't feel completely run over like I did in Mando 3 and like I did in Boba Fett. I feel like this is taking place after like season 2 of Mando and then this. And Mando 3 doesn't have to exist at all. But
it was a passing of the torch. Clearly.
She wasn't even in Ahsoka. She wasn't in Mando 3, though.
No.
He passed the torch in Mando 2.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm saying...
Well, no, he's passing the torch to the show in Mando 3. It's done.
Right.
We're done with those characters now. Grogu and Din are just like... They're not going to come back in a Mandalorian
They're
story.
on a bench.
Yeah,
they're on a bench.
Yep. And
they are on a bench.
That's all, folks.
Yep.
You know, that's it.
I've heard rumors of season 4.
But it's not going to be them. It's going to be about her. It's going to be about her.
Then it wouldn't be Mando.
It would be called Mandalorian, which is
not Ahsoka.
Not Ahsoka.
You mean Sabine?
No.
The other one.
Or what's her name?
The one who's like queen or king now or whatever she is. Bo-Katan.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Clearly. That's what they were doing. Women washing. They're passing all of the Star Wars franchise over to women. Rey, Bo-Katan, like Ahsoka, like all of this is it's being women led now. I'm okay with that. It's just like recognize it. You know,
right.
Understand that's what it is. You can't deny it. It's clear. It's very clear that Star Wars is now woman led. All of it.
Well,
except for the big bad Thrawn and the Sith guy. Yeah.
Bad guy bad. Girl good.
There's a witch.
Barbie.
There's a witch.
Guy bad. Girl good.
There's a witch.
Oh yes, there's a witch.
Bad.
Oh, also, yes. Well, they straight up called her a witch. They weren't trying to hide it. Uh-huh.
Your thoughts, Will.
Okay. So all of this talk and nonsense about the two of you trying to figure out whether this guy is a Sith or not is just cope. And I believe that it's cope because during when we were talking about Andor, I made the not distinction. I made the hypothesis. I had the opinion that what's his name there, who was funding the rebellion, was actually Sith because of the lightsabers that came out of the side of his ship. Now the two of you had different answers for why you disagree with me. Lee, you just liked him. You want him to be the good guy. You really didn't see it. You weren't on the same page, which is perfectly fine. Chuck, however, said, well, he can't be because there can only be two. I'm sorry, there are 3 in the show, plus a witch, plus whatever else is out there that's force-sensitive, dark side, red lightsaber, yada 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 mumbo jumbo. Lee, before you even jump down me, I don't care what's considered canon. I don't care what you saw in a television or on a cartoon. I'm talking about what we are seeing now on screen with these shows that are already out there that are considered canon. That's what I'm going on. That's the first thing that I wanted to say. Everything else about this show, I actually liked it. I liked the show. Through and through, both episodes, they were fantastic. Don't mess up. The other thing that I want to touch on is the fact that, well, it's actually 2 things. Anakin was referenced twice, once in each episode, and we get the witch, and I called this when we were talking about Mandalorian. We get the witch saying, Thrawn calls to me across time and space. This is happening.
Huh?
Yep.
This is I cannot believe that they're actually doing that, where there's a whole nother galaxy and they have to build this massive machine to go there, and you get the line, calls to me across time and space.
Yeah.
This is going to be the show where they write Anakin back into the story. I'm calling it. There is going to be some element of time travel. They're going to find a way to do this. This is going to be where it is.
So my guess would either be clone or Force Ghost.
But
full on time. Full on time. She said across time and space. If she had just said, Thrawn calls to me across space, fine. We're just talking about distance now. Time and space.
Mm-hmm.
That's important. I'm not ignoring that. Time and space. I said during Mandalorian, and I wasn't joking, eventually Star Wars is going to get to the point where they introduce time travel. This is where it's going to happen. 100%. 100%.
How, though?
I don't care how, but it's going to happen. It's clear as day. It's clear as day. Why else would you heavily reference Anakin in two completely different scenes, in two completely different episodes, unless you're gearing everything up for that? That is
the only reason is because they're trying to tie Ahsoka to Anakin,
which is fine.
Explain that to people who never watched any of the animated stuff.
Right, but she's always been his Padawan. He's not dead.
But you guys don't know that, and but you only know that because I told you.
But he's still not dead though, because this is before. This is after Returns.
This is after Returns.
Yeah, it's right after.
This is after the rebellion fell, which is another thing. Which is a thing that I kind of have a problem with, because the first episode opens up with the guy there, and he's making this speech, and he's blah 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 blah, and he's waiting for whatever girl, and he's like, he doesn't give a date, he doesn't give a time, he doesn't give a year. He just says several years ago today, the Empire was defeated. It would be really nice if we could get an actual year, not just don't just say several. He said several.
We never get that. We never get time and date in Star Wars. Ever, ever, ever. Never once.
5 years. Why don't you guys understand that?
Yeah.
5 years.
Haha. Haha.
Why does everybody keep getting it wrong?
7 years. You're lying.
So no, yeah, those are my big takeaways from this show.
Right. The only time that they ever use for Star Wars is the battle that was in episode 4. What's it called? When they blew up the first Death Star.
Okay.
Oh yeah,
they
explain that. Yeah,
that's the only timestamp for quote unquote that's ever used in Star Wars.
Yeah,
outside of that,
ABY and all that stuff.
Outside of that, Star Wars is never timestamped. Ever, ever, ever. It is timestamped a long time ago.
In a galaxy far, far away.
In a galaxy far away.
One galaxy they were focusing on, and now this show brings up another galaxy, and it's like blowing everybody in this galaxy's mind that they might be able to travel to another galaxy.
I'm going to blow your mind on this one, though. If you actually play the Star Wars video games...
which ones?
The newest ones. So there's Jedi Survivor.
Yeah.
There is another galaxy in this game. Galaxy, dimension. Yeah. Yep.
They also go to Dathomir in the first one.
Hidden
where the Night Sisters are.
Yes.
When you're facing all those Dathomirians that look like... Yeah, I know.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's actually hidden from the Empire. Have you started those games at all yet, Will?
Oh, yeah, not really. I'm not. Well, I've played through. I didn't pay all that much attention to the story, and I really couldn't get into Fallen Order. Was it? I'll go back and I'll pick it up again someday, but it's just not going to be right now. But regardless,
when you get into it, it's amazing.
I believe you.
And then when you get to Survivor, it's a whole nother level. It's fantastic.
It's a whole new world.
It's a whole new world.
A new fantastic point of view. Anyway.
But no, there is talk of other galaxies, universes, dimensions, all kind of weird stuff in the video game as well too.
Fine.
So that doesn't surprise me.
This is the first time that we've heard it here in this context, in this setting.
I brought it up in live action. Yes.
I maybe it's me. Maybe I hung on that line a little bit too hard. But the fact that you have a witch talking about time and space.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that could be used a different. That could be used as in like he's talking to her, and he's projecting himself, and what he was saying 2 years ago is reaching her today, type deal. That would also be time and space.
I don't think that's the way telepathy works, but okay.
When you're that far away,
Yeah.
it's like when
Why?
you're slingshotting. When you're slingshot, like when you get too close to the sun, time speeds up, type deal.
What makes you think
That
that
would be like
telepathy
time
would be
travel.
bound by distance?
I didn't
Telepathy.
say.
He
I
didn't
didn't
have
s-
telepathy.
I didn't say telepathy. I said he
Oh.
projected himself. Like maybe he projected himself.
That's telepathy.
No,
No.
Or is it telekinesis? Which one?
That's,
Telekinesis is when you move things.
astral
Telepathy is when you talk to somebody
Astral-
with your brain.
Astral.
but I'm saying
Projected.
like astral projection type stuff. Like he's sending himself.
That's still
over there.
telepathy.
No,
That's like it's a common sci-fi thing. If you're telepathic, you can speak to somebody or show somebody things with like your mind. Like that's the way, and we understand that that's how the Force works, right? We've never been introduced to a concept where it's bound by distance. It's always like an immediate thing. I don't think that Thrawn is going to show this witch something, and it's actually, oh, this was 2 years ago. No,
It's only been bound by distance in this galaxy. We have
How do you-
no idea what it looks like when it's another whole galaxy and even more light years away. We have no idea what that's like. So when you
we'll
get closer
find out.
to
We'll find out about that. But it was pretty heavily implied.
if they bring time travel into it, I'm
Oh,
noping out big.
It's going to happen. It's
But
going to
I'm noping
happen.
out big.
This is
I'll
going
nope
to
out big.
happen.
It should not happen in Star Wars. Because then, if Disney does that, I'm gonna sue Disney. I'm gonna go to the courts of Florida, and I'm gonna file a lawsuit against Disney. And I'm gonna do it on the basis of you are ruining every person over the age of 30 their childhood. And I'm willing to bet I could get signatures from
Oh.
100,000 people.
What if they go ahead and pull a Terminator Genesis where they just rewrite episode 4? And they're like, oh yeah, remember how this was gonna happen? No, sorry, I'm picking you up. We're going over here now. It's like, oh wait, great.
Well, there are talks of rewriting 7, 8, and 9.
I did hear about retconning that,
Yeah.
and
Probably wouldn't
that-
be that would not be
might
the
be
worst
how they
idea.
it wouldn't be the worst idea. I mean, Sherman sausage is good for certain situations, but I think the reality is we all kind of agree that although there are good things to take out of that sequel trilogy, it was not a cohesive thing, and it did not fit. Into
I
what they
get
were
that, but
trying
it's
to do
now
here.
it's now the story that we know. As much as bad as it is, you can't rewrite history. And
But
people
Disney
are,
can do whatever they want because they got the dough.
they're losing the dough because
Well-
they're doing stuff like that.
No.
They are losing big time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's one way to look at it.
So the couple of things I want to touch upon here. What did you guys think about how Ahsoka's lightsabers finger?
I'm
Yes.
touching.
Okay. The way that she entered that the Night Sister,
That was awesome.
you thought that was cool how she threw her sabers down.
That was
just
sick.
force cut through it.
That was
Yeah.
fantastic.
I thought that was pretty cool.
It was sick. I'm just thinking like, okay, it was stone, so that makes sense, I guess. I'm just thinking how long it took for them to like cut through doors when they were in ships with the lightsaber, and here she's just like, and I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. Like I saw it the first time, but then I ended up the second time watching it through. I rewound it like 3 times to make sure I saw what I saw because she was totally not even holding on to them. She was just force
holding them.
Oh, yeah.
holding them, cutting
Full
through.
on.
I'm like, that's pretty sick.
That's
It's
awesome.
pretty cool.
And,
it was really
yeah,
cool.
She goes.
Well,
into,
the thing, like when you're talking about in Phantom Menace, when you have Qui-Gon putting his saber
Yeah,
through
yeah.
the door, there was thicker than the stone that she cut through.
right, because it was
It's like
actual.
4 doors that
Right.
it was cutting through.
But they also do it in video games as well. That you have to put your saber through it and twist and twist and twist until finally you can break through the door.
No.
I think they did it. I don't know if it was in I want to say Force Awakens, the Force Unleashed. It might have been that, or it might have been in Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. Either way, I played a ton of Star Wars games that were on like PS2 and Wii and stuff like that. Anyway, it was one of those, and I did like it. So I'm not saying I don't like it. It's just at first I was kind of like, whoa, like, can she do that? I'm like, oh yeah, she could totally do that. And it was cool. It wasn't super thick. It was fairly thin for what it was. I like that she was like portaling them through by just cutting holes through.
Yeah, pretty much. That was really cool too. I never thought in a million years that I was going to see a scene that was going to reference both Indiana Jones and Fifth Element. So
yeah. So what was your Indiana Jones pickup
when she's running? Because I know the scene. The scene is iconic when Indy's running from the cave or whatever that's collapsing, and he's running towards the plane just to get away from the explosion.
Well, it was a ball that was chasing him, a giant ball.
Yeah, but when he's running to the plane, he's actually running from people shooting at him.
Right, he's running from a
okay.
Which could be something that was in, I think, Star Trek Into Darkness, the beginning of that one.
Yeah, so he's jumping to the ship.
He's running away from the village people, and that was the village people.
Okay, but that's just the first place my mind went. That's just the first place my mind went was Indiana Jones. But when she actually like fell into the cave, it's like full on Fifth Element. Like it's 100% full Fifth Element.
I'm really surprised she didn't like blow on something, burn one thing, drip water on another, and then it looked totally like those pillars.
It actually wasn't Fifth Element.
What was it?
It was actually Underworld.
Okay, I haven't watched Underworld in
you haven't
like 20 years.
Yeah, but she shot her way. She shot the roof she shot the ground out and fell through.
The same way as Ahsoka did. Right.
Yeah,
I'm talking about the cave that she ended up in.
Wile E. Coyote cuts holes in the ground with saws, and next thing you know, everything else like he cuts
holes in a cliff and just falls.
Yeah,
and the rest of it falls. But
her landing, everything was Underworld.
I'll give you that.
It was all Underworld.
I'll give you that.
Yeah.
Once she gets down there, and you have, I will admit, when she got down there. And you have all the different...
And she's just hugging the pillars. And
she's looking at it. I was half expecting someone to go...
It looked like it. It looked like that was going to happen.
There's 4. What's the 5th?
Yeah.
Multi-pass.
They had the whole self-destruct thing where they all stopped down just like... And then she's like, I got to go. And I'm like, how big are these explosions? I didn't expect them to have that much... TNT.
It was a big bada boom.
Big bada boom.
Massive
bada boom.
Another thing I thought was really interesting is they're referring to her as Fulcrum. That was a big deal in Rebels because Fulcrum was kind of their spy within the Empire. So it was the rebel spy within the Empire who had all this information, and it was one dude who was referred to as Fulcrum, and then eventually became her. I forgot the dude's name.
Fulcrum.
Yeah. Okay.
Sure.
Yeah, and there was a dude in there who was originally Fulcrum, and then eventually she became Fulcrum because she was able to get a lot of this information. So she was helping the rebels, but not like officially with them. Now she is, but still referred to as Fulcrum.
So was it the dude playing a dude acting?
Disguised as another dude.
As another dude?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, pretty much. Anyway, I thought it was really interesting. They bring all these characters in. Again, we're at a time right now where contact lenses are just cartoony looking and really ridiculous. I don't know what happened after Austin Powers, The Spy Who Shagged Me, when suddenly it was like, hey, all contact lenses look like they did in White Chicks. And now that's just what they look like. They don't look natural at all.
The girl, the green girl, whatever her name is.
Yeah, with her green eyes. Ahsoka, again. It's like, when you saw Dr. Evil and Mini-Me and Goldmember, their eyes looked ridiculous. It was like a totally different type of contact lens. You watch the first Austin Powers movie, he's wearing blue contacts, but doesn't look ridiculous. It looks natural. Like, oh, dude's got blue eyes. That's cool.
Well, I think it's meant to be more alien.
I'm talking all movies now. If you see any movie when they're wearing blue contacts, everything since like 2000, it's been weird looking. I don't understand how technology got worse.
Because they're probably not using contacts. They're probably just doing over the eyes.
They're using contacts. They are. There's no way they're doing it over the eyes. It's contact lenses.
Star Trek started it.
Yeah,
with the first contact.
Okay. Right.
Wow. I'm trying to think about what else happened in the first episode that was like a thing that I wanted to
Well,
reference. There was something else that happened in the first episode where I was like, "Ooh, I want to talk about this," and now I can't even remember what it was.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, if you remember it, bring it up. Ryder Azadi. That's a real big deal. So, what's his face there? Clancy Brown played a character in Rebels called Ryder Azadi, and here he is as like the leader of Lothal. Kind of cool to see he took over as the leader, but he's also reprising his role as the character there. So that's great. I love that.
I don't like that they cut her hair.
That's what she looked like at the end of Rebels.
With short hair?
Super short. I had to rewatch the last episode to remind myself because I'm like, her hair was never that short. But no, at the end of it, when she became Ahsoka's apprentice at the very, very end, like the final scene of Rebels, she cuts her hair even shorter.
So when she's an apprentice, she cuts her hair short.
Yes.
Because all apprentices do that.
I guess so. But she didn't have the braid. Yeah.
She should have kept the braid. She had
Padawan.
longer. Right.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
I mean, no, Padawan is Jedi, apprentice is Sith. So there's that. But yeah, the interesting thing too is
That's true because she's not part of the order, so she can't have technically a Padawan.
I guess not, but she refers to her as a Padawan at the end of the next episode. But interesting enough, they had this mural of the original Rebels, which was Hera and Sabine and Ezra and Kanan and Zeb and Chopper, and it's very cartoony looking.
Yeah.
It looks exactly like the mural that was in the show.
Really?
Oh yeah, it's like completely the exact same thing, just cut out and put in there. So they're super heavy tying into it in a way where it's just like, oh no, you really need to just watch this as a continuation of that show, but now it's focused more on Ahsoka being the leader of what's going on here and everybody else being a supporting character. So that was there. It was pretty interesting. The whole Fulcrum thing.
I know what I wanted to bring up. Why is the
go.
New Republic stupid?
So
you have
no
dude,
idea.
you have dude who's like in charge of this like junkyard or whatever, and they're like processing
over
new
in
parts,
Corellia,
and
all
they're
the really
and
cool-
they're riding in like a hover thing like through the junk area, and he's like, you will find X Imperials on every level of the Republican government. I'm sorry, of the New Republic government. What?
Right.
Why? This is dumb.
Well,
This
because
is so stupid.
I'm pretty sure they did ask a question about it at one point, like a quick question, and then he kind of explained it. I think he was using that as a way to be like, if you find something, just remember
he
that
explained
they're
it
all
as in,
they're all kind of reprogrammed.
they don't care who they work for. They're just looking to get paid.
Yeah, but
they-
that's
So
clearly not
basically,
clearly not the case. You got the guy
For
in like
him.
the control room going for the Empire, and he just starts opening fire on people, and I'm like, how is this? This is what it's going to turn into, though, right?
right.
Right, but all the people that are working there are the same as what's his name from the second. What's his name? Benicio del Toro's character.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't care who he worked for. He just wanted to get paid.
Smelt.
Yeah.
Good conductor. Yeah.
But that's the whole point though, is they're there. They don't care who they work for. They're there just to get paid. Now,
I think that whole thing was just build up to prove that they do care who they work for, because
Well,
they're
he cares.
clearly
Some of them.
Some
people are there just to
when
work.
they're
Others
making
are
their
there-
making their way through the junkyard. All of the workers in this area are giving Ahsoka dirty looks.
Not
They
all of
do
them.
not want her there.
Just because they might hate the Jedi doesn't mean they are that they're for the Empire.
Accurate.
Okay.
That's accurate.
A lot of people,
You see the Jedi come, you're like, oh great, what's gonna happen now?
right?
Like,
The guy stands up and says for the Empire, and then a bunch of them get hauled off the prison.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like 12 of them out of the hundreds that work there.
Okay.
I mean, at first, do you know? So I was watching this. I was like, "What does this guy play on?" House.
oh, that dude? Yeah.
House.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he played on one of the doctors on House, like
Yeah.
third or fourth season in.
Yeah, he did
oh
look super familiar.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I remember him now. Okay.
So
A little cameo there. I mean, I think he's done. I don't think we'll ever see him again.
Nah.
But one of the cool scenes was when she is okay. Two things: was it me, or was this city
It was you. Okay.
Asgard on a planet?
Asgard on a planet.
What?
What?
So you know how Asgard in Marvel, you have where what's his name who has Des and Troy, he's protecting the portal.
Oh yeah.
And then there's the big rainbow road that goes into the big city. Well, she has the tower with the big straight road that goes into the city, and if you look at it, it looks very much like Asgard.
You're talking about the of the aesthetics of it.
Yeah, it looks like Asgard, but on an actual planet, where Asgard is just kind of sitting there floating in space.
Oh yeah, on flat Earth.
No, it's just Asgard.
Yeah.
Like the waterfalls just fall into space.
Yeah.
But this
flat Earth
looks like Asgard on an actual planet. But when she's speeding away and they're trying to stop her, and the girl lands her ship, and she's like, she's not stopping. She's not stopping.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden she just like locks, like she retracts all the stuff on her speeder and then just ducks underneath and just continues. That was awesome.
You thought that was awesome?
That was super cool.
I thought it was cliche.
I thought it was really cool too.
Okay.
Are you a movie guy? Like, what?
I thought you was smug. Eskimos are nice. I think Eskimos are smug.
I thought it was really. I was expecting maybe she would like jump, like Jedi jump over it, and the speeder would go underneath it. But she like dropped. I never saw speeders do that before. I thought it was really cool.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, again, we've been seeing in these shows like other sides of this galaxy, other places. Like when you saw in Kenobi, when they went to that place that was like, kind of the underground, everything's like, hey, want to buy some death sticks type place, and you're seeing that. We're seeing kind of the gritty underbelly of things that we didn't notice before. And we're seeing different things here as well. What?
I can't keep looking at you with your headphones like that.
My ear's hot. Anyway, great. I'll just be uncomfortable for your viewing pleasure. No, I think that they're really trying to break out of the aesthetics that we've all been comfortable with, where Star Wars has been a space western, and now they're getting out of the space western feel and getting more into like the urban feel. And here's what happens here, and here's what happens. You've got technology that works and is not like full of sand, like. Anyway, that's what's happening here. It's also why they're playing the music that they're playing. Like
that took me out of it. That took me out of it when she's riding on the speeder and all of a sudden like rock music started playing. I'm like, what is that? This feels weird.
It reminded me of Star Trek. when he's going down on the bike and they're playing Sabotage.
Same exact thing. I thought the exact same thing.
They're trying to modernize this old story.
I don't know.
It's in a sci-fi universe.
Fit in Star Trek though.
It fit here for.
It doesn't. I don't think it fits here.
Asian pop, like Asian rock. Okay, cool.
I don't think it fits here at all. It felt weird.
Star Wars as much as it fit in Star Trek. Yeah. Star Trek because it was back on Earth, and he was driving a car, listening to music from Earth. It makes sense.
So where do you think that music was from?
It doesn't matter.
Exactly, it doesn't matter. So why are we hung up on music sounding like
because
music?
Star Wars has never used like rock music before.
So Star Wars has always used music that to us sounded really weird.
It's classical.
Yes.
No.
Yeah, John Williams have always used.
You're talking about a score. That's not a score.
But that's all Star Wars usually has always been.
No, Star Wars is like that's Star Wars. That's Star Wars.
1977 Star Wars.
Outside of the score,
you know what I mean. Like that's typically like the music like style of a Star Wars thing, not like
what I'm getting at.
Not like a full set band.
They're not in a saloon in a Western like.
I think the music here that felt weird to me. It doesn't. I don't think it fits.
I get it. But that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to push us, progressively into a new, like, this is Star Wars now. We're getting out of what you're comfortable with and moving into something else. And we're going to have a whole new galaxy to go through, too.
Disney, I hate you.
Yeah? Do you like Disney?
I hate Disney.
Okay. You like that knee?
I hate that knee too.
Okay, I thought so.
I hate both knees.
So what were your thoughts? What were your thoughts on Sabine, like Tony Starking the map, in order to figure all that stuff out? Like that was clearly just like when he created that new element. When he's putting things together and like, oh, here it is, something I didn't notice when he took the model of the expo or whatever and like took things out and moved things around and suddenly it all made sense.
That happens in a lot of movies. I think it's fine.
It was very on the nose, I think. Tony Stark.
Indiana Jones did it too. In Raiders of the Lost Ark, when he was on the cave and he had to put the pole in, he had to figure the whole thing out.
That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about her sitting there. I'm not talking about when Elsbeth did it. I'm talking about when Sabine was in her little workshop.
I know what you're talking about.
She was literally taking like a scan of something and then removing things and then manipulating those things just to see what it might look like. And that's how she got the code and the key.
She didn't manipulate anything.
Oh, she did.
No, that was the base of it. She took things out. And then she saw it. Because she was just focused. She didn't manipulate.
We didn't see that little triad thing until way later.
It was always on the bottom. And it had the sides around it. And then she took the pillars out. Then she took the sides out. And then she looked at it and she enhanced it. But it was always there. We just didn't see it.
Same exact thing as what Stark did. When he scanned that whole model,
yes.
And he did it. It's identical.
Yeah, and it was the arc reactor. Yes.
Well, not the arc reactor. It was the new element that he created.
I don't think I have a problem. I don't have a problem with her doing that because at least this show went through the trouble of showing her actually like trying to figure it out and thinking about it, as opposed to us coming back and she just has the answer and we're off.
Right.
It's one of my big problems with the other way of doing that is just coming in like midway through the figuring out part and you just get the ending, like Star Wars with a Vengeance. How they have the water jugs and they just come back and like the answer's half solved and it's like, well, how did you do it? We don't know, but we're done now, so we're moving on. That way of doing things like that is stupid. They should actually show something.
Did you say Star Wars with a Vengeance?
Did I really?
Yes.
Die Hard.
I don't think I saw that one.
I was like, that's a new one.
I'm sorry.
Is that canon?
I'm sorry. Die Hard with a Vengeance. I'm sorry.
No, that's spot on. Star Wars with a Vengeance.
That's fantastic. I want to see that movie. That's every fan made. Yes. That's every fan made film after Disney took over.
Great.
Yes, I love it. No, I mean I get that too. It's definitely much better than her standing in the exact spot she needs to with a dagger that shows her where the Death Star remains are. It's like, oh, good thing you were standing exactly there. Yeah. It was weird. Oh, it points right to the spot.
She fell there. The ship tossed her.
So
it was well written.
Yeah. I mean, we get this thing that Sabine's a rebel. Now, Sabine's character, one thing that was really funny about her in Rebels, she always had explosives in her pocket. It was like that was like her signature thing, is she would just like throw these explosives on things and then run away like ha ha ha, and things would blow up. Like that was just her thing. And they haven't introduced that yet here, and I'm hoping it's because they're showing that she's grown up. But I'm really hoping that she just pulls out these little explosives.
I thought she did. Little round things that she pulled out at one point.
And did what? Where of them? I didn't see it. When?
She had to go blow something up with it.
What'd she blow up?
I don't remember this at all.
Yeah, she pulled out and she was fighting the droids, and they knocked it out of her hand.
Okay. Oh, so she didn't actually get to.
Oh, yeah. Now I remember that. I remember that. Yeah.
Sense. Yeah. So
what I don't understand. Okay, okay. Here's. So you made a big stink about this in Titans, but you say nothing here. So a motorcycle falls on the head of a guy in Titans. We say nothing, and you're like, you're doing the whole Will Smith and Wild Wild West. It fell on a man's head.
Yeah.
In this case, you have a 85-pound woman, okay, punching with her bare fists metal droids.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she's fighting.
I'm pretty sure I skipped that part.
She's fist fighting with metal droids, and she's winning.
Oh yeah.
Like when one of the droids puts her in a headlock, she ain't getting out of that.
No.
Unless she happens to have her lightsaber on her, and then cut, which she ends up doing. She steals the guy. She steals his blaster.
Yeah.
Fine.
Well, there's something that I didn't bring up that it's very valid. The Force.
No, she didn't use
She has the Force,
but she wasn't using the Force. She's a
I
Mandalorian.
don't think she knows anything yet.
I mean, she was a Padawan at one point. I mean, she even pulled out a lightsaber. She had a lightsaber at one point that she like grabbed, and then somebody made a comment. I think in this show, right, that was Ezra's lightsaber.
Ezra's.
Yeah.
Ezra's
the droid.
Ezra made a
The
new
droid.
lightsaber. So Ezra's lightsaber was actually really, really cool. His first lightsaber was a gun/lightsaber, and it was really awesome. Like if he held it like this, he could shoot it, and then he could ignite it and use it like a lightsaber. And it was amazing because he was like a junkyard kid, you know, who did what he did, and then he became a Padawan. And it fit his character perfectly.
Yeah, the droid said, "That is your lightsaber," and she goes, "No, it's Ezra's."
Right.
And he goes, "Well, no, Ezra made it, but then you did your own thing to it, which now makes it yours."
Yeah. Yeah.
There was a scene. So in Jedi Survivor, there is a Jedi who basically is frozen in carbonite without being frozen in carbonite. He's when you're not carbonite, you're
Cryosleep.
Cryosleep.
Yeah.
He was put in cryosleep for hundreds of years. What seems like hundreds of years. It could have been 50 years. They don't give you a timeline because they never do in Star Wars.
Thanks, Star Wars.
But he has he wakes up from cryosleep, and he has his lightsaber, and he takes out the crystal because his lightsaber is like a gold or a yellow.
Yeah.
And he's super mad at the Jedi Order. So he holds the crystal up, and it like floats in his hand, and he does something to it, and it turns deep red, and he puts it back into the saber, and it becomes a deep red color lightsaber. I thought that was really cool, showing how he went to the dark side.
Okay.
Because when you're a Jedi, you could have a purple saber, you could have a yellow saber, you could have a blue saber, you could have a green saber. You can have all these. Green typically meant you were like Jedi Knight material. But on the dark side, it's always red.
Yeah.
Always red. You never see anything else. So
what
it was
did
really,
purple mean? Purple meant you were Samuel L. Jackson.
Samuel L.
You
Jackson.
got whatever you wanted.
You got whatever you wanted. Because he's the only purple one.
You know his lightsaber had BMF inscribed on it, right?
Probably.
Oh, it did.
I wouldn't
it
be
absolutely
surprised.
did. No, he specifically did it. It's inscribed in the metal.
So I was like
Not a joke.
I used to sell cars for a living, right? I did it for almost 10 years. And one of my sales managers, who I followed for like 3 years in the industry.
I will follow him.
Yeah. He was a huge Pulp Fiction fan. And he's like, "I want the wallet." So I went for Christmas, and I found
Will's
him.
got it.
I found him the wallet.
Yeah.
And I brought him the wallet.
That wall has been retired.
Oh,
I had it for like a decade. It was falling apart.
valid. Yeah.
I have to buy a new one.
They're like $10 now.
Yeah.
No. This one I had was real leather, and it was really.
Oh, you bought a real actual?
I bought a real one. It was like $30. Actually, no. When I bought it, it was probably closer to 40. It wasn't cheap.
I can't stand that though. Why does he have to do? Like, I'm gonna pull in, like, even in when he did Secret Invasion, he had to pull in other movies to go into that movie.
Well, yeah.
Why?
Because he's Samuel L. Jackson.
That's what he does.
That's yeah.
I think it's like in his rider. If you let me in this, I have to make a little thing in there that's like an Easter egg, or like, you know, whatever you want to call it, beyond an Easter egg.
Well, how come he's never done an Easter egg for Snakes on a Plane?
No.
Because his Easter eggs are generally from Pulp Fiction.
Pretty much.
You didn't like Snakes on a Plane?
No.
Why not?
It was
Because
so
he's had
stupid.
I've had it with these.
It was so stupid.
On the Monday to Friday.
It was so
train.
stupid. You know what? It's not even the ridiculous of snakes being on a plane and they're running amok. Kenan Thompson is then trusted with landing the plane because he plays a video game.
You know, I only watched that movie once when it first came out. Never need to watch it again.
No.
Don't remember it as vividly as you do.
I've watched it twice. I don't know. I watched it once and I was like, maybe It was one of those things where you're like,
Maybe.
if I watch it again, it might be better. Nope, it was worse.
The best thing about working at Blockbuster is you got to see all the I just lost the Asylum Pictures versions of movies, like Snakes on a Train.
Yes.
That's why I always get it mixed up. Then they had Transmorphers.
Ooh.
They had all these movies that were basically the same thing, but then you watch it and you're like, oh, they just took the basic concept but completely changed the movie, and it almost like you wouldn't compare it.
Right.
Like it was just bad. Like the story made no sense. It didn't go anywhere.
Speaking of that, did you guys see that Cocaine Bear is on Amazon for free?
Oh, yay.
Wow.
Cocaine Bear. We watched a movie last night. I kept saying, this must be Cocaine Bear. Oh, the bear didn't show up. It was Cocaine Wolf. But yeah. no, it was ridiculous.
Totally out of ideas. Totally out of ideas. Just everything is, I don't know.
Sharknado. I'm sorry. Sharks of the Corn.
Like
they
did 7 Sharknado movies.
Yeah. That first one though.
7.
That
Tara
first
Reid.
one. That first Sharknado movie was
the
special.
death of Tara Reid.
No, Death of Tara Reid is Alone in the Dark.
No, that was before Sharknado.
Uh-huh.
And then she did Sharknado.
Yeah. And
Alone in the Dark was fantastic.
Bad.
No, it was amazing. Come on. Seriously, Christian Slater was not good in that movie?
Christian Slater is not good in anything that he does.
He was great in Star Trek.
I found a picture of early Christians and then Christians later.
He was great in Star Trek when he opened the door and made an announcement to Jim Kirk. He was also great. He was fantastic in Robin Hood. I liked him in Robin Hood.
No, he wasn't.
That was my introduction to Christian Slater. But that's also one of my all-time favorite movies, too.
Okay. So I have a question.
A
question. Is Ahsoka supposed to be as stoic as Rosario Dawson is playing?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Because that's the only thing that I was like, this doesn't feel like a Star Wars Jedi kind of upbeat attitude character that we're used to seeing Jedi in. She's very like subdued.
Dark. So what happened to her is before the end of Clone Wars of the show, she started seeing what Anakin said, from my point of view, the Jedi are evil. Like, whatever. She was starting to see that even the Jedi Order, like, was not doing what they were supposed to be doing. She was seeing issues with leadership.
So another character is just mad at Anakin.
Well, she wasn't mad at Anakin. No.
Okay.
No. She later on came back and faced him, and that's where that whole Kenobi scene where the mask was half off originally was done with her and Anakin in Rebels, and it was fantastically done. It must have been Rebels. It was either Rebels or the end of the Clone Wars, but her character went through some stuff, and she started off as like a little kid, like a 14-year-old. And then by the end, when you saw her, she was just kind of like quiet, stoic, as you said, kind of ominous, kind of all-knowing, because she took the step back and was able to see kind of all the sides. Mm-hmm. And that's why you see her with her 2 sabers here, which is a little bit different than what she had before when she first started. And also, she's kind of not Jedi-ish. She's using some dark stuff. Like some of her Force stuff is a little dark.
Yeah.
And that's because she stepped away from the Jedi Order and is still Force sensitive, still connected and using the Force, but she's doing her own thing.
Right.
She is not a Jedi and she is not a Sith. She is, more of a Jedi than she is Sith, but she's kind of walking that line as well. And that's what makes her character really cool.
Okay.
So I like what they're doing here. I kind of wish that she would open up a little bit more, but it's not the way that they wrote the character. So,
okay.
I mean, we'll see what happens as it goes on. I kind of hope that she does open up.
Well, I mean, it was John Krasinski that played Mr. Fantastic in the Doctor Strange movie, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So as much as that was a fan, the writers and the producers were,
giving fans willed
right.
Krasinski into existence for that role.
Yes.
Wasn't
And
Rosario
Same
Dawson the
thing.
same
Yes.
thing for
everybody said we
Ahsoka?
want her in there, and she goes, "I'm all for it. Let's do it."
Right.
Absolutely, yeah.
And honestly, she is perfect. She looks just like her.
Oh, she does a great job.
It's fantastic.
Right.
It's absolutely fantastic.
Okay.
I liked her better in
Men in Black 2.
no,
Wow.
no,
Wow.
in Daredevil.
Mm-hmm. Oh, in the show.
The
Yeah.
show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She was fantastic in Daredevil.
No, she was.
I was just asking because I
like-
wanted to know if she was being true to the character or not.
Oh yeah. No,
Okay,
for what the
good.
character turned into by the end, absolutely spot on.
I think when you get people that are trying to give a nod to the fans and they step into that role, I think the actor is always trying to make the character be as real as possible. I think it's the writers, the producers, and the directors that ruin it, not the actor.
In many cases, yeah. I don't think
Yeah.
he was trying to blame her. I think
No.
he's looking at it from a standpoint of like, is this character Rosario Dawson outside of it? You know,
Right.
Is this character true to
Yes.
what we saw? And honestly, if you've got Dave Filoni backing it up, it's going to be spot on. And so far, everything's spot on. Even the actor who's playing Sabine, the actress, she doesn't sound like Sabine. But I mean, this is years later, so obviously it makes sense. This is after Luke and all that stuff, so she's older, but her character makes sense. You know, she's always been kind of like, you know, leery, like not sure if she wants to go forward with certain things because she's like, no, I don't trust this. She was always a rebel in her own way, and she's matching up with it. Ezra, perfect Ezra, the way that they showed him here. You know, Hera, pretty spot on. So I think everybody here is spot on to what their characters were created to be, way before the show was even a thought.
And I have one more question just about like canon things.
Mm-hmm.
Is Thrawn ushering in the New Order?
So I don't know what they're doing here because again,
That's Snoke.
It's one of no. I'm like Snoke was
Thrawn-
no.
Thrawn is still Republic. Is still Old Republic Empire. All the way.
Yes, but that's why I'm asking, like, because it kind of feels like because you have all these. Well, even though
They
you two
might
disagree
use
with
it to
me,
do that.
you have all these characters who are introduced on the show who's like still loyal to what the Empire was, and now you have a witch and two Sith going off to get somebody who's like all powerful, and we know eventually where things kind of end up with the New Republic, it goes by the wayside and like the New Order kind of steps in. So I'm wondering, like, is this Thrawn ushering that in?
They might use that to connect the two.
It'd be
Now, again,
interesting.
the trilogy that I'm going through right now via audiobook, the Aftermath trilogy, might have the answer to that because it is considered canon. Disney is considering it canon.
Okay.
Because it's fairly new-ish and it comes out like, you know, pretty much right after the second Death Star is destroyed. And where I'm at right now in the beginning, I'm literally only a chapter in after the prologue and stuff, is he's out and about in like a little ship, whatever. It has like a weapon on it, like nothing too crazy. Not sure what to do. And then he gets
Who's he?
Wedge.
Oh, okay.
So he's out there and then he gets stumbled upon by like a Star Destroyer. He's like, we destroyed the Empire. What's going on? You know, and there's still an imperial presence, and nobody really understands why and how. So I'm wondering if they're going to bring Thrawn into this trilogy as well, as if it's a part of it. But the thing is, I never read the new Thrawn trilogy that came out like 5, 6, 7 years ago. That's considered canon. So I don't really know where things are going to fall with this, and if this is going to lead into that. But I wouldn't be surprised if Thrawn's presence does lead to the New Republic.
Yeah, it kind of feels like
Not New Republic. What do they call
the New Order.
First Order.
The First Order. Yeah, First Order. I'm sorry,
So-
I thought it was
Yeah. So that's where.
You don't want to see the rise of Snoke? Come on.
Jeez, I will never
Wow.
want to see that.
Wow.
I still say Snoke is that stormtrooper who bumped his head in A New Hope.
Oh,
Gotta be.
yeah.
You know, when he walked into the door there, and that's what happened to his head. It fits. It all fits. I want to see the actual rise of Jar Jar because he's the one been behind this whole thing. He's actually Darth Plagueis. We never knew that. If they better just do it. At this point, they've already pooped all over everything else. They might as well just do that. And like, oh, see, now Jar Jar makes sense, and we can forgive it because nobody expects him.
I love how you say they poop over everything else when I don't think anything that Star Wars has done has been completely killing to the franchise.
Boba Fett.
The Last Jedi.
Boba Fett.
I forgive the sequel trilogy because there was a lot of behind the scenes thing that was going on between two directors.
If they're
I don't fault that on Disney or the Star Wars franchise. I fault that with two people who just had massive egos and wanted to compete with one another.
Boba Fett.
If they're going to
I know.
cancel movies like the DC Batgirl movie that they canceled after they shot like the entire thing, if they're going to cancel things like that, why wouldn't they have canceled this back and forth thing? Like they knew that Ryan Johnson was going in a different direction and it made no sense and just poo-pooing all over what was just set up for him. And then vice versa when Abrams took the helm again. It's like, come on, Disney, you can see what's going on here. You can see that it's garbage. You know, take it out before it gets released. I mean, geez, we had fans. I know we bring it up all the time, but fans screamed about how ugly Sonic was, and they're like,
they changed
okay,
it. Yeah.
All right, we'll send it out in like 6 months later, and it'll be better. All right, and it was, and they even made fun of ugly Sonic and brought him into Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers, which was amazing,
Fantastic.
as ugly Sonic at a Comic-Con. It was perfect, but I'm just saying, like, I don't buy that. There's been plenty of opportunities for them to look at this and say, this was bad. We shouldn't have put this out. And honestly, I think sometimes a statement from the creators just coming up and say, we're really sorry. We'll try to make it up to you. Would be nice.
Yeah. I can agree
John
with that.
John Favreau has his hands in this as well too, which I was surprised.
Does he really? Because I feel like he's let a lot of it slip out, and it's no longer him. It's just Filoni, and it's all.
This TV show is full of Filoni.
It is.
So
for
what kind of cheese do you like on your Filoni and cheese sandwich?
I was gonna go somewhere with that.
I mean, even when you look up the episode listing, and obviously episodes between 3 and 8 are to be announced. They haven't released that yet, but they have the director and the writer, and the writer for every episode is credited to Filoni. So.
Oh yeah, absolutely, because he wrote all of these characters. They all came from his, wheelhouse. So I don't know. I don't hate the show. I think it's really cool. The one thing I don't really appreciate is, and maybe it's hard for me because I know all the backstory of these characters. Like all of these characters, I know all their backstory. I feel like we've talked about this before, but I'm trying to see it from your perspective, and you guys are missing out on so much that explains all this, where I don't feel like you're getting the full effect of what they're trying to do here.
So what you're saying is we should watch Rebels.
I'm saying you need to watch Clone Wars and Rebels to really understand all this.
That's a lot.
I don't think
you should have to. I don't think you should. I think if a television show is coming out and the TV show itself is introducing what they're looking at as a brand new audience
in live action,
I think there's a difference between that and something that's animated.
Right, and that's why I'm holding back on really giving this a full stamp of approval, because it's not explaining enough of the stuff that you guys don't know. They are to a point, like the Night Sisters. They're saying, "Oh, well, we were once called the Night Sisters. Oh, so you're a witch?" Like, okay, if you really want to know more about it, play the game. If you really want to know more about it, watch the other shows. Like Night Sisters came up in Clone Wars. They came up in Rebels. Like they were heavy in Rebels.
One becomes good. Night Sisters are like the witches, right?
Yeah.
So one becomes good in the Star Wars game.
Okay.
That's actually a really cool story.
Okay. Yeah. Well, but that's the thing is like you have to know all these other parts of the franchise that are not directly tied in, and the more that they put these shows and these movies out, the more they're going to introduce these characters. So the fanboys of these, or fanboys, fangirls of all these other fan people, fan X's, whatever, of all of these different things, watch it and they go, oh, look at this. And then the problem is you're opening up a can of worms, because if you stay very true to what they already know because they were involved in either the show or the game or whatever it was, and they stay true to it, it's like, great, that's perfect, but people are going to get lost. If they stray away from it, you're going to upset a lot of people who watched and said, no, that's not what happens, and then you're going to have all these people yelling about it. So the reality is, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. And that's what we're getting at here is they're treading into areas that are like, be careful, because you can really mess up a lot of things here and
Right.
and screw your future up. And that's why I'm like, I don't know how I feel about them going so heavily into this Rebels storyline, because they better stay completely true, because you got Filoni at the helm and they're doing everything, including showing the exact replica of a mural in this, TV show that we saw in an animated series. Like, there's no way around it. It's heavy-handed. They're going to get into it. We're going to see Ezra one way or another, because Ezra didn't die, per se. I'll give you guys the heads up, because you haven't watched it. You probably won't. But in the end of the last episode, Ezra looks at Sabine. Or he tries to say he's going to go and sacrifice himself so everybody else can live and he can get rid of Thrawn. And they're like, no, there has to be another way. He goes, okay, let's look at another way. And then when they all go back to the drawing board, he looks over at Sabine and he's like, I'm going. Like, just kind of looks at her, and she's like, So then he looks over.
Ezra was the guy that was in the hologram,
yes.
right?
So he looks over at this vent up in the ceiling, and then she goes, okay, goes over and distracts them all while he escapes. And it's the last time they're all together. Next thing we know, he's face to face with Thrawn, and he has this thing where, because he's so strong in the Force, he's really connected to a lot of creatures. So he called the Purrgil over that he got close with, and called them over. They came over and basically held Thrawn down and took the ship and just sent them off to whatever dimension the Purrgil are from. And that's the end of Ezra and Thrawn. So we didn't see them die. We just saw them getting taken out to a place that nobody could get to. And we knew this, like, once they're gone, they're gone. Now we're seeing there's a way to get there again. I'm like, okay. So just like we saw in Where's Luke? Where's the Death Star? It's like they found, or where's the Emperor? With the little, triangular pyramidal things, whatever. They're doing all this stuff over and over again in Star Wars, where it's all about finding a map to find where a person is.
Yeah.
Okay, why is there a map that shows where these people are? Why? Why does that map exist? How does that map exist? Do they have a GPS tracker on this person? No.
Well, X never marks the spot.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I'm going off on a rant here because there's a lot of things that need to come up, but the reality is, like, it's very clear that nobody's dead. They're putting it very heavy-handed here that nobody's dead. They're just in a different galaxy. Now we're going to get a new galaxy. What does that mean for Star Wars? I don't really know, but it's going to be very different. We're going to get a lot more Asian rock music, I'll tell you that.
It's going to be a galaxy not so far away.
Oh, they're coming to Earth.
They're coming to Earth.
Coming to Earth 616.
617.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. Well, no, it's going to be 616. And then next thing you know, Ant-Man pops out of a van because of a rat. And here we are.
A rat?
Rat.
A rat?
Yeah.
With 4 turtles?
Mm-hmm. Pizza rat.
Have you seen it yet?
No.
Oh, so have you seen it yet?
Nope.
Mutant Mayhem? Oh, so good.
Mutant Mayhem.
So
they may
good.
not ham, but they could.
So I don't know about you guys, but I'm like good with this episode, these 2 episodes. How about you, Will?
Yeah, I could say that. The last thing that I'll say about it is I'm still hung up on the time and space comment by our new witch friend character person. I always figured eventually Star Wars would get to a place where they introduce time travel, just because I figured it would be like a last-ditch effort. Like, once Star Wars runs out of ideas, we'll introduce time travel, and then we'll be able to do something with all of these characters who are quote-unquote dead. I did not think it was going to be...
Their way around that for the longest time was clones.
Mm-hmm.
So they should stick with that.
Clones and Force Ghosts.
But Force Ghosts could be a way of also...
Which is what I thought they were going to do with Anakin.
Time and space. Because they're technically dead, so you're talking to somebody who's no longer around. So that could be a way of doing that as well, too.
I'm taking what she said at face value, and I'm not going to read a whole lot into it, like, what's the deeper meaning behind time? Like, no, she was clearly talking about one thing and one thing only. That's the way that I'm going to take it. I'm taking it at face value. I did not think it was going to happen this soon. It is this is really fast to be.
Well, I mean, 40 years later is
MCU has done it. DC has done it.
Yep.
Now Star Wars is going to do
Star
it.
Trek has
Star Trek's always been doing it.
Yeah.
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 These
And it's
been up for
different.
a long
It has to be different
Oh
from.
yeah, but not in like live action.
Yeah.
Live action. When else did DC? Oh, what? Superman's flying around the Earth and slowing it down.
Well, there's that, but then there's Flash 10 years ago when he first came out and he did time travel.
TV show. Yeah. Okay.
Live action.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Lois and Clark, back in the 90s, they did time travel all the time.
Mm.
They actually time traveled with, what's his name, who wrote Time Machine?
H.G. Wells.
H.G. Wells. They traveled with him in the TV show.
Everything
Like,
that you're talking about is pretty fine and dandy because if you do time travel in almost anything else other than Star Wars, you're not working with a whole lot of characters. In Star Wars, you're working with a lot of characters. It's going to be a lot to keep track of, and there's going to be ample opportunity for them to mess something up. And when I say mess something up, I mean like making catastrophic mistakes that are just going to just ruin Star Wars. That's
unless they're using time travel to retcon the sequel trilogy.
That would make sense.
That was the only theory that I was getting to, is they could totally do that. But here's the difference. This all comes before that. But
I know. Which is how it would retcon.
Which is how it can change things. So if they change the past, it changes their current, therefore changes their future. That's the only way that they could retcon it, and I would kind of allow it. I don't know.
I think I would too.
I don't know. Just because it was so what it was. But the thing that stinks is they labeled it.
If they do it to retcon the sequel trilogy, fine. If they go back and retcon it to like they time travel back before, A New Hope, and they change that stuff, I'm out.
Yeah,
because that's
blasphemy.
That'd be awful. But I would be fine if they want to retcon the. There are parts of the sequel trilogy that I like, though.
Yeah. What? They fly now? Great job, sir. Terrible job, sir.
It's the sequel trilogy's a disjointed mess.
Oh yeah.
If you look at it, if you take like one movie, like if you look at each movie individually, not bad. They're not great, but they're not bad. But when you look at the entire picture, it's horrible.
Absolutely.
It is absolutely horrible.
True. But that's why I said there are parts of the sequel trilogy that I like.
Yeah.
Force Awakens by itself, I enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed Force Awakens by itself.
For what it was.
Yeah. I mean, it was basically A New Hope 40 years later, which is fine. But I mean, it was for what it was good. I enjoyed it. The inability to actually keep a single trail of thought cohesive throughout all three was, depressing to say the least.
Pretty much.
When they did the whole when
Rose,
as cool as it was, I mean, to be as powerful as Luke was, to astral project himself across the galaxy,
and that's what kills him.
Well, he was on his way out, I guess.
But he's there for a long. He was there for a long time.
He fulfilled his contract.
He was. You say he was on his way out, but like the movie opened up with him like stepping onto like a ladder or a rope and like swinging to another cliff and like scaling down and getting weird bluish looking boob milk, and everything was perfectly fine. Like he was perfectly fine in doing all that, but
I think it was just how long he was basically outside of his own body is what killed him, because he did it for a very long time.
I don't buy this. There's nothing that you could possibly say to me that would justify Luke's death. Like it was, I think it was stupid. I think it was so stupid the way that he went out.
Even Mark Hamill was pissed about it.
Yeah. I don't blame him.
So.
I do not blame him at all.
If you haven't already, please watch the pitch meeting for that.
Oh, it's fantastic.
It is amazing.
I like. I am Rey Skywalker.
Oh,
No,
jeepers.
you're not.
No, you're not.
You're not.
Who told you could do that? Nobody gave you permission. You can't say that. But
I'm changing. I'm Chuck Dickerson.
yep. Yep.
Yeah.
So I'm. Do you have more to say? Because
I was going to bring up the Eye of Sion really quick. You guys understand what that was? That big ring. Basically, what we saw before in. Was it in like Attack of the Clones, or it was somewhere in the prequel trilogy?
The
Did you
Eye
say
of
meringue?
Sion?
Yes, the Eye of Sion.
Did you say meringue?
Is that the big?
I
Is that the big ship that they're building out in the middle of space that they're going to use to go to the other galaxy?
Yeah, so it's
Okay.
a big ring.
Okay.
Now, if you recall seeing a ring before, there was something that I think it was used in a couple of times, but it was definitely used on a small ship that that Obi-Wan was flying, and it was attached to his little ship. And that's what gave him the ability to travel through light speed. That's what this thing is. This thing is a gigantic light speed engine that's going to get them to that other galaxy that they wouldn't be able to get to otherwise unless they built this. That's what the whole thing is getting into. It's actually really cool that we're seeing that technology come back in this sense, but it's on a massive scale. So it's almost it's like a Death Star scale of a light speed traveling device. So it's pretty cool. I just want to bring that up.
I hope they don't drag out the storyline. Like, I would rather Thrawn be introduced earlier than later.
Yeah, because the whole thing is like, and Thrawn's here.
Only because only
Yeah.
because they mentioned his name. If they never mentioned his name, fine. But
Right.
they mentioned his name, so now they do need to introduce him.
Because, like, either way, because they're talking about this character and because it's supposed to be like this massive deal, either way, I have a feeling like this is going to be one of those television shows where this season's going to end kind of on a down ending.
Yeah.
Like, it feels that way. So just, if you're going to do it, just go ahead and do it and rip the Band-Aid off and introduce Thrawn, and then, like, all hell breaks loose. Like, I'm all for that. I'm all for something like that.
I'd love to see a live-action Thrawn, but here's the other thing, too. You've got a Night Sister and these two, like, non-Jedi, non-Sith, Grey Walker-type characters. Clearly, I mean, the last line is basically, killing her would be a shame. There are so few Jedi left. Like, he's sympathetic, doesn't want to kill the Jedi. He's not a Sith. Clearly not a Sith. He's conflicted, but he's doing this for money, and that's what he does. But you've got this character. Thrawn is just a smart dude. He's a great strategist. Why are these powerful people, like, all, like, worshiping him? Why is she focused so much on him?
No idea.
I don't understand. Like, again, Thrawn's really, really cool. Great strategist, but why is he the big bad?
We'll find out.
I mean, whatever. I remember it in the books, but I didn't feel like he was an emperor level threat. Dark side.
So
we had Snoke, so
are you like worried that they'll change the character of Thrawn to make him more imposing?
I'm wondering. I mean, imagine if they just gave him like Sith power suddenly. It's like, oh, and he's a Sith. Oh, well, like they could do something like that.
Kind of what they. It kind of feels like what's happening because you get him. You get the head, the master, not Sith, not Jedi guy.
Yeah.
What is the big and his Padawan is sitting there like what is the big deal with him? What do we get out of this? And he just says power.
Right. Yeah.
So I get what you're saying. Like, if Thrawn is supposed to be just like a brilliant strategist, that's fine. But this is not feeling like this. Feels like a little bit more than just that.
Right, and I'm hoping they don't just have this big letdown where it doesn't even make any sense, and it's like, oh, here he is, and it's like, but that doesn't make sense. They're more powerful than him, so why is that an issue?
Right.
So that's what I'm really hoping is not going to cause a problem. That
I hope. You know what? I'm going to say it. I hope the show jumps the shark. Then let them go get Thrawn. They bring him back to it. They got to bring him, and he just starts shooting lightning out of his hands. Let it happen. Let's do it. I think that would be hilarious.
Yeah, I'm not upset at this. I don't hate this show. I feel like if you're gonna do this and you're gonna bring Thrawn in, do it right. do it. Just please do it right. We've been so disappointed with so many shows we've been watching that Disney's been putting out. Like I can't think of anything great that they've put out lately that we're like that was amazing. Loki was awesome, and they got season 2 coming out soon, and I'm trying to just be prepared for a potential letdown. So I hope they do something good here because they got so many amazing characters that if they make this canon and they screw it up just like they did with Boba Fett, we're going to be very disappointed. Chuck's sleeping. So anyway,
We're done.
It's been fun.
It's been great.
It's been real fun.
Yeah. So thanks everybody for sticking around, for listening to us rant, mostly me, about this show. Yeah, I guess we'll catch you next week.
Yep.
Talking about episode 3 of Ahsoka.
If I don't see you, good afternoon.
Oh, I won't be around next week. You guys are on your own.
Good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
Yeah. Good night. Bye-bye, everybody.
Hey, everybody. Lee from Black and White Reviews here. Just wanted to take a moment to thank you for tuning in, checking out our conversation. If you like this discussion and you want to hear more about this specific subject or other things, check us out on our podcasting sites, whether it's Spotify, Apple Music, or Google Podcasts. We're up on pretty much all of them. So, yeah, thanks again for popping by, and, yeah, be sure to like and subscribe. Thanks.